Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode number 68 of Merritt in the Morning, now featuring 100% less Merritt, but only for a little bit. Sorry, Jim's running late for this episode, so I just made producer Josh Gillespie burn his lip on coffee on that one. So thanks. I'm Brad Klopfenstein. I am your co-host. I am president of the Greater Lawrence Chamber of Commerce. Jim Merritt will be here shortly. He's a 30-year state senator, if you haven't heard. Our guest today is Betsy Wiley. She's with the Institute for Quality Education, and we're going to be talking about school choice. But before we get to that, we want to thank our sponsors, the Honey Baked Ham Company, locations at 96th in Michigan, Greyhound Pass in Carmel. Producer Josh, do they have any sort of specials going on that we're aware of right now, or is everything special?
Everything is special.
Everything's special. So stop in. They are open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. I believe they open at 10 a.m. They're there till 6. So they have everything you would need. Sides, you can eat in, you can carry out. They'll feed you. They will feed your family and all your coworkers. Whatever you want, they will take care of it. So stop in and see those fine folks. Also want to thank Stockyards Bank and Trust. Locations at 71st and Binford, Carmel, downtown Indianapolis, Plainfield, Greenwood at County Line and Emerson, Center Grove down on 135, opening any day now up on Michigan Road in Zionsville at 116th Street, and also coming soon to Whitestown and Fishers. So, Betsy Wiley.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So Jim will be here at some point. For our viewers, pay no attention to the tall man who's going to slide in and sit over here on the to your left, the left side of the set. So Betsy, first, let's do a little background on you. How did you get into school choice? What brought you to this? What brought you to Merritt in the Morning today? Leading up.
Well, a couple different things got me into school choice. First of all, my parents are retired IPS school teachers.
Okay.
So importance of education, having teachers around and drilling that into you, right? It was my upbringing. And I've always cared about it. And then when I had the opportunity to work with Governor Daniels for a number of years and work on policy, one of the things that I got to work on that really piqued my interest was in 2011 his comprehensive education reform package, which included school choice, the voucher program, among other things. And you know, I believe education being the great equalizer for folks. And so when I was done in the Daniels administration, the folks at the Institute for Quality Education, at that time called School Choice Indiana, had reached out and said, we want you to come work for us. Luke Messer, who was running it at the time and then was going to go run for Congress or go be a congressman.
So this was after he was state rep, after he was executive director of the state party.
Yep.
Okay.
And he ran School Choice Indiana, and then he ran for Congress and won. And so he was going off to D.C. In January of 13. And so they said, how about you come run this? And I've been there ever since.
That's great. So let's touch a little bit on how did you get hooked up with Mitch Daniels? You were with him for all 8 years that he was in office. And what was your role in that administration?
Yes, so I served as Deputy Chief of Staff for that during my time there, and I was there from day one to the end. I got to meet Mitch when he was running, and I, at that time, was working in the State Treasurer's Office as Chief Deputy Treasurer of the state, and so had the opportunity to meet with him. Bill Osterly, we were talking about Bill, some others on the campaign early on to share a little bit about state government, how state government works, how it's financed, some of those things that as you're running you want to know, but you know, if you haven't been there, you might not know it. And so hooked up with the campaign, and after he won and put his transition team together, I said I'd be interested, and they reached out and said, let's interview you. And as they interviewed, you know, hundreds of people, and was offered the opportunity to come work for him and help deal with the inside of state government side. That we kind of had two deputies. The other one, originally the other one, I was the head of cabinet and agency affairs, but Eric Holcomb and I became the two different deputies, and he kind of handled outside coalitions and folks around the state, and my focus was more state government.
Okay. So now on the education side, so you grew up in Central Indiana, obviously.
I did.
Okay, and your folks both worked for IPS.
Yes.
So did you grow up in inner city Indianapolis, suburban Indianapolis?
We grew up in suburban Indianapolis, right across the county line. We went. My brothers and I went to Carmel public schools, and we asked my parents about it. They were very clear at the time. There wasn't a lot of choice or option, right? You went to the school that you were geographically assigned to.
Right.
That's
or
what
parochial
you did.
school.
Yeah, if you could afford it.
Right.
And but they wanted to live in a district that they didn't work in, just in case they ever had any, differences of opinion or personality conflicts with any other teachers or whatever. They didn't want us to suffer from that.
Also allows the kids to be a little bit more anonymous.
Yeah.
So interesting. So what brought you to your passion then with education, higher education, school choice?
I over the years, and again, we talked about, I think education's the great equalizer. I don't have any children myself, but I have 6 nieces and nephews, and really have seen firsthand as they were growing up how kids learn differently. One of my nephews is on the autism spectrum, and public school worked for him to a particular age, middle school. And then, his differences socially or whatever were a lot. He was being bullied, different things. And so they were able to go out and find schools, found a private school that dealt with all kids on the spectrum. Perfect fit for him, right? And I remember him saying how much he loved it, how, he didn't feel weird because everybody there was weird, was his quote. Everybody's like me, we're all weird, which was awesome, right? And he had this school community and friends, and then went from not liking school and it being a fight every day to really enjoying it, graduating high school, eventually, going to Ivy Tech, transferring to IUPUI, and now a college graduate, right? Where probably wouldn't have happened if he'd stayed in the public school system for him. I've got nieces and nephews who thrived in the public school system, perfect fit for them. And then I've got a couple others that needed a smaller parochial high school, and that worked for them. And so watching friends and family being able to get their kids into the learning environment where they best fit, where they can thrive, where they can make the most of it, to me, there's no better thing to work towards.
So, obviously, it's pretty clear that, yes, different kids learn in different fashion. Some you can give them a book and they're going to learn everything. Others learn by using their hands. There's some kids that can sit still for a whole class period, and there's others that they cannot.
Yep.
So, so what does your organization do to encourage school choice within a public school setting?
Yeah, we do several different things. So the Institute for Quality Education has a couple different arms. One that we do is we're the state's largest scholarship granting organization. So that's administering the tax credit scholarship program, which is helping families who might want to afford private school. We also are an advocacy organization, and so we engage a lot in K-12 policy and advocacy at the state level, so working with legislators in the Department of Education on education policy that will support kids in all types of schools. And then we work with our outreach team and families to really try to make sure, which is the focus of our kind of new campaign, to really make sure that they are making educated and informed choices when it comes to their kids' education. We don't, as an organization, care at all what type of school a student goes to. In fact, we know that traditional public schools work for a large percentage of Indiana's students, and that's great, but it doesn't work for all of them. And so what we want to make sure families understand is that, you have choices and options, learn about them, and get your kid in to the best environment for them, whatever that may be.
So now, do you have an initiative to take school choice to more rural communities? Like, I'm guessing Greene County doesn't have a lot of school choice.
It is tough in some of our more rural counties. In fact, I think we have about 30 to 32 counties right now that don't have anyone participating in the choice scholarship or the voucher program. And so their options are much more limited. because those typically also don't have a public charter school in them, and some of that. Now, one of the things, couple different things that I love about school choice is there's also public school choice. We see it a lot here in Central Indiana, where perhaps somebody lives in IPS and chooses Lawrence right here, and they can do that even though they don't live here, and that's fantastic. That can also happen in rural Indiana. Again, a lot of times maybe one large school district for the entire county. Depending on where you live, you may be closer to the school district next door. So you see a lot of that transition. We're also seeing the birth of micro schools. Hancock County, so just
east here,
I
grew up there.
Right next door. They're doing some really innovative things. They noticed that several families were leaving their district, and they went out and met with them, reached out to them, met with them for over a year, and said, their superintendent, who's a great guy, said, why? What are we not giving you that you wanted? And how could we get you back? And what's come out of that is they're now creating some micro schools, some, 2026 versions of one-room schoolhouses where you're getting multiple, age levels and grade levels in one room. They've got more flexibility in the in the school day. Maybe they don't go 5 days a week. Maybe they go 4, and the other day is an experiential learning day where they're going and taking a field trip, or they're doing something different like that. So we're hopeful, and they're working on an initiative to hopefully bring that into more rural counties as well.
Okay. So for our listeners, viewers, how does school choice work within the framework of the state of Indiana has some pretty strict guidelines as far as STEM programs and the education that's being tested in order for schools. All the schools are graded based on accomplishments of their student body. How does school choice fit within that framework?
Yeah, so any school that wants to participate, any private school that wants to participate or accept vouchers must follow all of those guidelines in terms of, what has to be taught and tested. The only test you have to take in Indiana is the iLearn. There are other tests given, but that's the only one that you're required to take. Third graders now have to take the iRead, which is a great thing. But, all schools are having to take iLearn, and that's kind of the grade equalizer. That, we talked about grades and accountability, large part of it. The State Board of Education just passed a new A to F rule yesterday, so they're going to measure more than just test scores as they do this new A to F system, but they're going to do that as well.
Betsy, look who's here.
Hi, Senator Merritt. How are you?
I'm well.
Good to see you.
I was so excited about this interview.
We're only 13 minutes in, so you're here for more than half.
Wreck on 465.
I just said it was kind of rough getting here today.
A little bit.
So welcome, Jim. So we're going to reset. That's Jim Merritt. He's a 30-year state senator.
Hi.
We're coming to you from fabulous Cafe Audrey's at beautiful Fort Harrison.
And
Jim,
we work hard and be nice.
Look at that. There's a sign and everything. So again, I want to thank our sponsors, Stockyards Bank and Trust, locations at 71st and Bedford, Carmel, downtown Indianapolis, Plainfield. I'm out of order, so now I'm Center Grove, Greenwood, opening very soon on Michigan Road, in Zionsville, coming soon to Whitestown, and Fishers, and then they're obviously all over.
When I do this alone, I asked Josh, producer Josh Gillespie, to do it because it's really difficult because they've got so many locations.
They do, and they keep coming.
Great company in Indianapolis.
They are.
Kentucky.
Yes,
really
fabulous. And they've been sponsors pretty much since day one of Merritt in the Morning. So thank you, Stockyards Bank and Trust. Also want to thank the Honey Baked Ham Company, locations at 96 in Michigan and Greyhound Pass in Carmel. Stop by lunch and dinner 7 days a week. They open, I believe, at 10 a.m., open until 6 or 7. So you get lunch, dinner, you can eat in, you can carry out.
And don't forget Ross. He makes the soups.
Ross makes the soup.
Russ.
They make the soups in-house.
And he's at 96 and 421. And he knows exactly what kind of sandwich I like.
And Jim is their honey mustard addict. So
I'm king of honey mustard.
You are. You love the honey mustard. Yeah. I don't think Cafe Audrey's has honey mustard. We need to work a deal with them.
Well, we're just lucky that they let us record here.
Yes. And by the way, you too could come to Cafe Audrey's and sit at this table.
Yes.
It's right inside the front door.
Wonderful.
So
stop in.
I've heard from a couple of people who said, I always wondered where you did that show. And then I walked into Cafe Audrey's on Saturday and I saw it right there.
Yeah.
So, all right. So
I've got a lot of questions.
I do too. We've covered the high level stuff. We went through Betsy's time in state government, how she ended up with, it's the Institute, help me out, Institute for
Quality Education.
Quality Education. There we go.
Yeah.
And well, first of all, not to hog the spotlight here, but Betsy Burdick Wiley is an icon in choice education, and she didn't get there alone. Mitch Daniels called me before he was governor to talk to me about legislation that former Senator Teresa Lubbers had been pushing, and those two really choice in Indiana in regard to education doesn't get started without their courage and just pushing to represent parents and Senator Lubbers sat right next to me, or I sat right next to her on the Senate floor, and I watched brilliance in procession, and she just, and those two really gave choice education in Indiana a real big push in government, and there are a lot of people who played a role, you've got Ed Choice is 30 years. Yes.
Yeah.
And you have a new, I'm not going to say media blitz, but a blitz to talk about all the growth and IQE and everything going on. And I promised Sarah Milliken that we would talk about this because I think it's so important because it's so universal now.
Yep.
And I'm so excited about it. And you talked about Hancock County.
Yep.
But it's everywhere. IPS, the parents have finally gotten to the table.
Yeah.
And local government is starting to get really active because they understand that people can vote with their feet, and they can leave Marion County, they can leave IPS, and we've been seeing that so much. And let's talk about what your organization wants to talk about, because that's what we do with this podcast.
Yeah. Well, we were chatting before. I said, with this campaign, with the Find Your Fit campaign, it's really simple. We want to help parents make informed decisions, so help them on this journey to choose a school for their kid. And that's a big deal, and you don't do it very often, right? We say amongst our staff, right, it's kind of like buying a house, right? You're picking maybe that elementary school, and then hopefully that fits, and then you're not really changing until middle school, or depending on what grades are served, high school, right? So you're not making this choice very often, and you don't want to get it wrong. And so we try to help them navigate through that, learn what's important to them, provide them with resources, direct them to places that can give them, if it's academic data they're interested in, or class size, or extracurriculars, or do they offer transportation or not, or what kind of services do they have for special ed kids? If my child has special needs, I want to know, how are they going to best be served? All those types of things, help them through that journey, and then help them understand, here are schools that might be a great fit for you, and here's how you can go contact them. Encourage them to go visit those schools, go meet them, right? You're going to know. It's like, it's like the college experience now. Everybody took college visits, and when you finally found the one, you knew this is where I wanted to be, right? Same thing now, but it's elementary school, middle school, and high school. And so that's what Find Your Fit's all about. It's about helping families who are looking for a different educational experience and hooking them up with schools that are ready to serve and eager to serve those kiddos.
And I think it's very important. And I supported this throughout my career because I thought it was so very important. And this find your fit.
Yeah.
Find your fit. I think that is a great moniker, a great slogan, because people, every family has a different set of circumstances, And ladies and gentlemen, this is not for the wealthy. This is for all walks of life, all families.
Yeah, no question. When we look at different types of schooling, we were talking about the different types, right? Public charter schools, and you were talking about Senator Levers and working on that for a decade before she got it over the line, got Lever.
It was
brutal.
Painful.
It was brutal. She doesn't stop, though.
No. She does a great job as president of the Sagamore Institute.
Yeah, she does. Sad to see her retire. Did you
I didn't know that.
She's retiring from that role.
They will be missed. She always will be missed.
Yeah.
There will be something else. She
can't sit still.
No,
so she'll do something.
She's a great grandmother, Teresa Lovers. Hi there.
She'll do something. But we were saying, so people are voting with their feet when it comes to school, but and the diversity, right? And so charter in central Indiana, we've got a lot of charter schools, we've got a lot of private schools, we've got great public school districts around, and all of that's available. And so what we have found is charter schools and a lot of non-public schools are serving more and more Black and brown students, lower and lower middle income students, right? So to your point, it's not just for the wealthy. It is literally for everyone. And there are options out there for everyone, lots of options out there for everyone, not nearly as many in rural Indiana as we talked about, as there are in central Indiana. But, it can become overwhelming.
Klopp, I believe in iron sharpening iron. And I think
was that Colts coach that said that?
I think a lot of people have said, but competition makes you sharper.
It does.
And my friend Brandon Brown and everybody with the choice movement, John Mutz.
Yep.
I mean, there are a lot of people that have come to the fore, and I believe this makes public education better, improved, because everybody has to do their best. Not that say they aren't, but there will be just that extra oomph.
No, I mean, competition makes all boats rise, and academic data is showing that, right? Everybody's doing better because, folks who didn't have to compete before are now saying, what do I have to do to make people pick me? And that's a good thing.
Now, I got to ask, some parents are just not as engaged as others. How do you make sure that those kids and those families know that they have choices and also don't get left behind in this whole shuffle?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
The parents, they work all day, they feed their kids, and then they do the homework. And during the pandemic, they were starting to figure out what was going on in school because they were more participatory. That's a great question.
Yeah. It's really hard. We have a small but mighty outreach team that spends all year trying to go anywhere and everywhere we can to get in front of parents, be it community fairs, resource fairs, be it Rotary clubs, be it community center night things. We'll do events around school choice where we can provide maybe a meal and some daycare, because that's the other thing, right? To your point, they're so busy. It's like, well, I might be interested in learning, but I got to make dinner. I got to do, right?
Or they work second shift, or any one of a number of things.
But it's hard, and we've partnered over the years with our friends at Ed Choice, Robert Enlow, and others, and they've done some research. Latest that they've seen, right? We're still maybe 6 out of 10 families still say they don't feel that they know all the options available to them. They might know one or two, but not all of them. And so it's just a constant fight and a constant battle. I wouldn't say a fight, but to make sure folks are engaged. And then, it's always new folks, right? You've got people graduating and getting out of the system, and, people having little ones that are starting to get in the system. So there's always folks to educate.
Yeah. Now, the one knock or challenge, I don't even know if it's a knock, but obviously you mentioned special needs kids earlier. There are some kids that are just more expensive to teach than others. How do especially charters deal with special needs kids to make sure that, everybody across the spectrum is receiving services and receiving an education?
Yeah. So charter schools are public schools, as we all know, and so they're open to all kids. They don't have any kind of admissions policy or whatever. But in Indiana, thanks to Senator Merritt and others, for years now, we have been about funding the education of the kid. Dollars following the kid, not funding a school type or a school system, but funding that child. Almost think of it as like a little backpack, and their funding goes with them. And that's true for special needs students, right? So if a special needs child chooses a charter school, not only does their kind of state tuition support money, their basic education funding go with them, but so does any special needs funding that they qualify for. That also goes with them to help that school provide those services. A lot of times you'll find charter schools that'll provide them directly. Sometimes you'll find them that will partner with, contract with the traditional public school district to provide those services. And that's a great thing. And in fact, I would say, traditional public districts probably provide the majority of special needs services and do a very good job of it for a lot of our students in the state of Indiana. And they do it in partnership with other types of schools.
And the question always is you brought it up is funding for charter schools.
Yeah.
And how we all. I've always believed that they are public schools.
They are.
But the conversation always comes around to the facilities that they work in, or that they teach in, that they educate in, as well as at one point we were only funding maybe half a child, if you will. How has state government come about? We've kind of evolved with funding for children where the funding is following the child. Can we discuss a little bit about how that's evolved, and is that 100% now?
So in the charter space, it's evolved quite a bit and evolved a lot last, not 2026 session that just ended, but in the 2025 session. And Indiana is now a leader in that, starting in 2028, a leader in the country, starting in 2028, a portion of your local property tax dollars that you pay that go to support the education, so not the building side, but the education side of a kiddo, will follow that charter school student to the majority of charter schools in the state, not all of them. And that'll be phased in over 4 years. And so that'll take what was, if you looked at total funding for charter school kids, federal, state, and local, they received no local funding. And that was about a third of that total pie. And in areas like Indianapolis, even more. So this will help close that gap. Now the capital piece, the building piece, is still a real challenge. We've tried things like the dollar law that people have heard about. And, it isn't a perfect
Describe
law.
Describe to the audience what the dollar is.
So the dollar law is a law that says if a school district has a building that it no longer wishes to use or is no longer using, and they want to close it, they must make it available, publicly available, let people know, hey, we're no longer going to use this building. And then if a charter school operator says, I would like to have that building to operate a charter school in, they get to do so for $1. School districts don't like the law, as you can imagine, because they, A, would not like competition to move into their old building that they're thinking about closing, and B, they feel like we should be able to sell that building for fair market value. Charter schools don't have the ability that districts do to raise money to build buildings because they don't have taxing authority, so they can't raise taxes or bond for it. And so they have to raise philanthropically or spend money that is meant to educate a kid to lease a space to have a school. And so that dollar law is in there really to try to be an equalizer, the theory being that taxpayer dollars paid for that to be a school at one point in time, and a public school. And just because the district no longer wants to operate it, charter schools are public schools, so why shouldn't we let that type of public school operate it?
Okay, so in our last minute here, let me ask, where do you see the school choice movement going in the next 10 to 20 years? And how can people get in touch with you?
How people can get in touch with us is easy. They can go to our website, which is i4qed.org. or myschooloptions.org. Both of them will take you there. And so happy to chat with anybody. 5 to 10 years from now, I mean, I think that our traditional schooling model, the one that we all grew up in, will be much different if we can even recognize it. Because I do think we're seeing different demands by business, by society, by parents, more experiential learning, more, things are being valued differently, being taught differently. How many new models will there be 10 years from now? I have no idea. I mean, I'm not sure that a charter school will look the same, a private school will look the same. I think you'll still find pockets of that. Again, I think that's what's so fun about choice is it's just education innovation across the spectrum. And that's why I love this campaign, because it's really all about helping people, again, find that fit, find the best place for your kid.
Well, I think your slogan, find your fit. Parents are trying to find their fit all the time with their kids, and with education, it's at the center of everything. Klopp, this has been a great episode.
It has been.
Apologies.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
Betsy, thank you very much for joining
Thanks
us.
for having me.
Thank you to Cafe Audrey's for hosting us. Thank you to Josh Gillespie for being our producer. Also, thank you to the Honey Baked Ham Company, locations 96 in Michigan, Greyhound Pass, and Carmel, for being one of our sponsors. I'm trying to remember if they were first or Stockyards Bank was first.
I don't know.
They're about the same.
The Cal family and Paula.
All about.
Yep. We appreciate her help.
Yes.
Stockyards Bank.
Thank you, Stockyards Bank. This has been the episode number 68 of Merritt in the Morning. We'll be back in a couple weeks with a new episode. Thank you very much for watching.
1, 2,